Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the FRS. It is Season 7, and we are already on to Round 3 for Division 2. Getting out of oil country in the Middle East, now headed to Italy and the Imola circuit. 4.9 kilometers around, 19 corners left to deal with in this one. Just the one DRS zone, though, so tricky little braking zones, just only with one overtaking opportunity. So, at 605 meters, Imola features the longest run from pole to the first braking zone, the Variante Temburillo, which you will see in just a moment. It's just a little bit longer than what we'll see next time out in Spain. But turns 2 through 4, as turn 1 is just a little bit of a kink on the straight, leads into the first braking zone, Variante Temburillo, as we said. And it's not even that slow of a corner, so tricky to get the car slowed down. Of course, you do have DRS leading into it to help out. Of course, when it comes to DRS, you got to try and get the detection point. You can see that white line across the road into turn 17, the first Ravazza. That is where you will get that mark, that 1 second gap to see if you get that DRS down the pit straight. Here are the tires of soft, medium, and hard as always. The medium's half a second slower per lap than the softs. The hard's 1.1 seconds slower per lap, although now that we're out of the Middle East, we may see some rain. We may even see those inters and wets. The softs, though, will do 10 laps, mediums 18, the hards 24 laps out of this 32-lap race. So in dry conditions, we should see the medium and hard. Typically, softs may be in a late safety car type situation. Let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Spen stays on top with his 40 points. Robin B jumps up into second. Chronicle with his race win up into third. Dog Golly moved down. Daryl Adam as well. Bananarama moves up. We scored our first points of the season, so we're sitting 8th on 11 points now. And rounding out the top 10 is Furry, Onyx, and Tomo. Or Tomaz. Basically, if they see a Tom on there, it's him. So it should be a good result. Time to see what we can do. Taking a look at the weather, it is dry in qualifying, but you can see race mixed conditions. So it looks like there is going to be some water for us to deal with. And now we try and make the choice and the decision. What are we going to do setup wise? Do we want to bolt on a little extra downforce, or do we want to try and keep it steady? It's kind of a gamble on how much rain there's going to be throughout the race. So here I am in the qualifying session in the garage still. Haven't gone out, so I can still make changes to the car. And I think at this point, I'm deciding whether I want to go more or less. I kind of split the difference. I go one click up on both wings for just a little bit more downforce, but it's not going to really hamper my straight line speed too much. So we will get ready as the tire blankets come off to head out onto this very cloudy but dry circuit here in the qualifying session to get our first lap in. So we'll jump out there as we come out of the final corner, and we'll take a tour of this historic circuit. DRS opens right there. Short run to the line out of that final corner, and now just kind of trying to carry some speed. 15 minutes to go in this 18-minute qualifying session, but down into Tamburello. Find that kind of breaking point of the curbing there, and now flicking it through the right-left ending of the chicane next into the Variante Villeneuve, which is a tricky little corner. Get the car slowed down. It's much slower on the second part of the chicane than the first. Into Tosa, this uphill right-hand hairpin. Can get some moves done if you are in the right position, but it is very tricky. It takes kind of a mistake through Villeneuve. Now, Piratella, this double right-hander, or left-hander rather, at the top of the hill. Very easy to run out wide there. And then Aqua Minerale, very tricky downhill braking zone, and even trickier uphill traction zone, as the rear of the car likes to kind of lose contact with the ground in that pitch. Now the final chicane, Variante Alta, the tall chicane. Take a good chunk of curbing that time by, and now we'll head down the hill finally into the Ravazzas. Lots of elevation change around this circuit. The Ravazza 1, open it up for the final corner, and the throttle goes, well, technically the final corner is right here. That little kink is technically turn 19. We do set a provisional P2 time, 16.9. There's still plenty of time to find for us on that lap. So we will be going once again. We've fallen down to 4th overall provisionally as of the time we go out for our next flying lap. There's about 9 minutes, so we're hitting the halfway mark of this qualifying session, starting our flying lap. Lots of cars out on track. We found ourselves a little bit of clean daylight, a better run through Tamburello this time and find ourselves a little over a tenth of a second. And now into the second chicane. Variante Villeneuve pitch it in on the brakes, pitch it through the second part. And now really well through there into Tosa up the hill. Try and not let the back end step out. We have found nearly a half a second through the first sector and change. Piratella now just past the 50 meter board, turn it in. We kind of have an equal run. Now, a little bit of a lift into Aqua Minerale. If I was feeling daring, I could have gone full throttle through that first part and then hammered the brakes, but a good lap already. Don't want to make any kind of mistakes, especially since I felt I left a lot of time on the table. Big snap of oversteer as we take a little too much curb, but we're able to rotate the car. We found only a little bit more time through the second and third sectors. We'll see if we can find... I didn't have the best run through the Ravazzas in my first lap, especially through Ravazza 2. You can see the amount of time found there. And then DRS opens turn 19 and across the line, and we go provisional pole, a 16.295. Now with the mixed weather looming, that was pretty close to what I kind of figured my maximum would be in the qualifying session. So I opted to save a set of softs, not go out again. And we end up getting pipped to pole position by just 17 milliseconds. Our teammate Dog, so we will share the front row, all Williams. We have Gali, Sakai, Robin B, Chronicle, Chuck, Godfather, Zhao, and Pathaman making up the top 10 starting positions in this one. But yeah, just a tiny, tiny margin that we missed out on our first career pole by. And you can see the weather forecast about half race rain, half race drying out. Of course, that is approximate. It's not guaranteed that it will be exact to that, but we are going to underfuel the car by a decent margin. We go full lap underneath. We probably honestly could have gone significantly more, but we are starting on the intermediate tire, so it's not too bad of rain. And after the mistakes in turn 1 last time, we're going to be a little cautious. Missed our parking spot on our grid box, so we're a little bit far back. We got reset, of course, but the lights are out, and here we go. And once again, we can see Robin B making a run down to turn 1. He's got some cars on the inside. We are going to just stay to the racing line. Lift early, brake, leave plenty of space on the inside for him. It's going to cause us to rumble over the chicane a bit, a little bit of a bobble, but that is a significant amount of time lost to our teammate up ahead. Now, as we settle in, I will mention, since I mentioned parking in the grid spots, of course, I didn't mention it last race, but this season we are able to run the immersive formation lap, which means you drive the entire formation lap, get your tires warmed up in temperature, and unlike previous seasons games where the AI would take control and roll you into your grid box, you can actually go and park yourself in your grid box to try and get as good of a starting position or angle as you can. However, if you roll too far forward, the game will push you back about a meter and reset you, so you aren't over your line, but you also kind of lose the ability to point the car. And especially here at Imola, with the way the track kind of curves right at the start, it was very advantageous to set your car up kind of, especially from pole position on the left, to set your car facing up to the right by a significant margin. We actually saw it in the Division 1 race from the pole man, Castleman. But end of lap 1 in the rain, you can see we have the racing line on just because as track conditions change, I don't want to be a danger to myself and others. It was actually a race around Imola here that first put the idea in my head a couple seasons ago, where I was just so slow in the changing conditions because I was so cautious on braking points that I got ran into the back of on 3 occasions. So after that, I was like, you know what, we're going to put the racing line on just because there's almost no way to tell the track grip conditions to a margin that won't send you flying off at every possible moment. So as the trade-off, once it switches to dry running, I don't look at that racing line really all that much. I kind of go off my normal feel, but we are at the start of this, and rain is not our forte usually, but having the racing line, at least in the rain, has helped out a fair bit. But we are hanging kind of on to about the 1 second margin to our teammate out ahead. Robin in the Haas hanging on to the back of us. We are opening up a fair margin to Gali already. 2.5 seconds the gap back to the Alpine driver. So we are kind of starting to form a 3-man breakaway if I can hang on to the back of Dog, which at times it looked like I was falling away and losing that battle. And then other times I was setting fast laps. and starting to catch up. So there's kind of an ebb and a flow at the early stages of this race. You can see Robin now 1.2 seconds. I thought, oh, maybe I can open up the gap and maybe put some pressure on Dog. Sockeye actually takes the fastest lap away from us on lap 3. But Robin does recover and catch back up. And of course, in the rain, there are always little mistakes and that sort of thing. Especially on the exit of Tamburello there, that left-hander, the back end really gets light as you're trying to get on throttle as early as possible. And definitely over the course of the rainy parts of this race, I had some moments. But jumping ahead now, lap 11 of 32. The rain has stopped, and the track has been steadily drying up. Robin has closed back up to the back of us. Our teammate Dog in front. Furionics has retired in the pit lane. That's him out of the session, but just in the pits. So no safety car going to be called. We're considering a pit stop at this stage of the race. A big mistake into the final corner. A little bit of gravel picked up. But Dog goes in first, so our teammate has pit priority by being in the front. This does, though, give us the opportunity to set the tires. So we are going to set a set of hard tires to go to the end of the race and tell our engineers that we will be coming in at the end of this lap. So now it's all about trying to bang in as good a lap as we can. We're still on the intermediate tires. We're kind of at the transition phase of the circuit. You can see I've burned a lot of battery already. So at this point, we're trying to overcut my teammate. I'm trying to turn in a good enough lap to where I can do this lap, come into the pits, come out ahead of my teammate. Granted, I will be on cold tires, so I will have to warm them up. That will be kind of a difficulty, and they will be bearing down on us with some already hot tires. But we are pushing very hard on this lap. In pre-race testing, I found it was about a 26-second loss to make a pit stop. So, of course, that can vary based on track conditions, but our teammate 27 seconds back, so we're starting to get to a phase where it looks like we will come out ahead. We set a purple middle sector, actually, the fastest of the race so far. So we've driven a good middle sector now as we're just over 27 seconds the margin to our teammate. And of course, this is the tricky bit, is if we can't clear our teammate fully, we are absolutely going to lose the position to Robin as well, as he's only about 7/10 back. So we are cautious into the pit lane. We could have attacked it a little more, but I didn't want a 5-second time penalty, especially with the track still being a little bit damp. So in trundling down the pit lane we come. Chuck as well in the Ferrari was about 7 seconds behind us. But good quick stop, on go the hard compound tires, and now we're going to switch our MFD to show us tire temperatures so we can keep an eye on the tire warm-up. And already coming out of the final corner, just about crossing the start-finish line, is our teammate. Here is the pit limiter line, trying to get the throttle down. You can see in the rearview mirror, here they come, 3-1, and bearing down on us. We do manage to get out ahead of Dog, but our cold tires make it very hard through this chicane to put the speed down. You can see how much more grip he's got. We're using all the power that we've got to stay ahead of our teammate, leave him space on the inside. Chuck crashes out in turn 1, and a safety car is called. So we managed to keep our nose ahead of Dog into Variante Villeneuve there. And that safety car comes at the exact moment that we need it, because now we can warm up our tires just like everybody else in the safety car train, and we have the lead of the race. So jumping up, lap 15 of 32, getting just to the end of this one. Our teammate had fallen kind of far behind. I didn't want to catch him too far napping, but we are waiting for the moment to rock and roll. So throttle goes down. We get a very good start as he had kind of fallen to about a second or so back. We let him close up, but we go out of the final corner and still maintain about a half a second of margin. So we get a very good restart, and now we are dialed in on the hard tires. It also gave some extra time, those safety car laps, for the track to dry a little bit more fully. So the track is actually kind of nearly feeling like it's full dry conditions. Not quite there, but it's getting very close at this stage. And now we've got a 1.3 second margin to Dog and Robin B pushing him along. So pressure between the two of them. Peter Ward, a big crash in the second chicane. You can see that bunch of cars all collecting, and all that's done is open up quite a big gap between the top three and the rest of the field, as Pathaman is down there. No Spen in this race. He was absent from this one, although with a 13-race calendar, I expect pretty much everybody will have at least one or two kind of absences. But as it stands, halfway mark of the race, dry tires that can go to the end, and we're running a Williams 1-2 at the moment. So looking good for the Williams team in the Constructors' Championship. And our pace, honestly, I felt very good on my pace at this stage, and had not yet won a FRS race. 6 full seasons of racing. Typically was up against in the Xbox division a couple of aliens. MJ Povey, QX Nemesis, very, very quick drivers, able to basically make any race in Xbox Division 1 kind of a race for like 4th. Was happy to snag some podiums in that division, but now in a division that I can actually compete in. I felt very good and confident after the result in Jeddah, and now feeling even more bolstered after hanging on was all I was really trying to do during the rainy period. I just wanted to hang on and stay with the lead group because I felt very confident in my dry running pace. I also felt people might make mistakes in dry running. It's easy to pick up some track limits warnings and penalties around here. But now Dog starting to gap Robin, about 1.4 to us, about 1.1 back to Robin. So no DRS for anybody of these top 3. Dog is starting to catch the backups, but a big mistake out of Alta. You can see in the rearview mirror. Around goes Dog and our teammate off the circuit into the barriers. It looked like, though, maybe he caught the rear of the car on the barriers. I think he's managed to stay out of damage. So that promotes Chronicle, last week's race winner, up into 3rd. And now we've got a 2.6 second margin to Robin behind us. DRS now enabled, although it's not going to help anybody here. And Dog now the lead of quite the pack of cars as he's gotten back to the front ahead of Pathaman and Chronicle, so he's now back in podium space. If he can get his pace back up, he can get going. But at this stage, just started watching that margin. Of course, I was concerned at Robin's pace. Robin showed very good pace in the opening wet stages. I was thinking maybe he was being held up a little bit behind Dog with the dirty air, so I was kind of keeping an eye on his delta, but we were able to open it a little bit more, 2.7 seconds. So at this stage, I'm thinking pace-wise, we're probably pretty on par with each other. I can manage my battery a little bit and pick certain percentages I want to burn down to at the start. Was only using my battery at the out of the final corner just to get a good run down the pit straight. Essentially, when I was coming through the final couple of corners, I'd look down at my battery and say, and for example, I'd say I want to burn down to 40% or 35%. So this time I think I did 40. So overtake on. Once it hits 40, nope, I did 35. No, I did 30 almost. So burn it down. But I was essentially just picking markers, saying I'm going to burn it down to X percent. And that's why you can see as we've jumped ahead to lap 29, still have quite a bit of gas in the tank, so to speak, battery-wise. And of course, the rain meant that we didn't have to do really any fuel saving over the course of this race. We burned it down to 30. That would give us plenty in these final couple of laps. 2.7 seconds the margin to Robin, so still pretty close. Dog had made another mistake. Now had fallen behind Chronicle, so he's 16 seconds off the lead, as is Chronicle. Of course, Chronicle on those medium compound tires showing some decent pace, but I don't think they quite had the life to get all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. So my act of continuing to count down laps was getting more and more sweaty hands. Luckily, I wear gloves when I drive, so it wasn't getting on the wheel. And I would still have a good grip, but, you know, every braking zone, every turn in becomes a little bit more nervy, especially considering there has been the moment or two where I've lost focus and just missed a braking point entirely. Monza is one of the prime examples. Also, Austria, I've done it, I think, twice into turn 4. But only a couple laps left to go. Tire temperatures in lovely, lovely windows. Mostly keeping the tire temperatures up just because if they spike in some of the high-speed corners, they will suddenly lose grip. So I'm just making sure that everything is nice and good through Piratella. Stam out of the session. Just ahead of us. So yellow flags, we're going to be very careful, see where that car is, pick our way around it. We were able to make our way around it without having to do any significant lifting. Robin made their way through as well, looks like at full throttle. So it could have been a dangerous situation, but we were able to see where he was at, pick out, and avoid the stricken car. Of course, with only a lap and a half left to go, no safety car would be called by the game. They kind of lock it out, I think, at 3 laps to go. Because they always guarantee at least 1 green flag lap of racing. If they called it on that lap, there wouldn't be time to get the safety car out and get it back in. It takes at least 2 laps. So lap 31 of 32, Robin still right on about that 3-second margin. And we are getting closer and closer. Dog has made another mistake, has fallen out of the top 5 entirely. You can see now Gali in 4th, Pathaman in 5th, Chronicle in 3rd. So we are getting very, very close to the end of this one. As we are going to burn a little bit more of that overtake. Save a little bit just in case there's a mistake. In case I make a mistake in a corner and Robin gets right up to the back of us. We want to have something to potentially defend with. Worst case scenario, but with almost a 3-second margin, I was actually very gentle on this last lap. I wasn't pushing very hard at all. In order to just be careful. I believe Robin takes a good almost half second out of me on this lap because of how much caution I'm taking. So you can see down to 2.6, started a lap at 2.9. So we have the buffer, we have the margin to be nice and gentle. We didn't pick up any track limits warnings the entirety of the race. In fact, looking over the top 5, there's not really many penalties to be seen anywhere. Now, one place that Robin was gaining on me the entire race was through this Variante Alta. If you notice, I take a very safe line, avoid the sausage curbs. In qualifying, I took the sausage curbs. In the race, you can take them, but it does upset the car. In practice, I had the car kind of flung around several times. Robin, I'm sure, was taking those sausage curbs. So every lap, he would gain on me there, but I was able to hang on. And yeah, I lose about 0.4 of a second on the final lap to him. But we take our very first checkered flag of our FRS career, our first win, and there is nothing that is going to take it away from us. No penalties to be given or taken, and there it is. P1, first place. Our first time standing on the top step of the podium. Started second from the front row and essentially won the race without making a single on-track overtake as we made our overtake in the pit lane. So it was pretty straightforward, a good drive, happy with it, and really gave me quite a bit of confidence after Jeddah and Imola that I could be a contender for the championship. I think I'm consistent enough, and I don't want to get my hopes too far up, but I think I have the pace to win multiple races this season and potentially win the Drivers' Championship. This does put me, I believe, on points ahead of my teammate Dog because of his finish here today. And we will hit a certain point in the season. Not anytime soon, as it's a 13-race calendar. Probably we'll talk to him probably after race 7 or so about thinking about the championship. But there we have it. P1 race win. Robin comes home second, so good challenge from him. He's probably going to be a main championship rival. Chronicle 3rd, Gali 4th, Pathaman 5th, Dog 6th, Zhao 7th, Sockeye 8th, Godfather Martyr in 9th, and then everybody else, which I didn't quite look at. But thank you guys for joining me on another good race. It was a fun one. It was a tough one. Just pressure-wise, I mean, I didn't have to do a whole lot of overtaking like I did last week, but that was how it went. But thank you guys for joining me. I will catch you guys next time. We have a break week off, and then it is Spain. So see y'all a little later. Peace.